Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. I'm Jeff Jones.
And I'm Steve Foster.
And you know what? Steve and I were just talking, and what we wanted to do on this episode is we're not going to talk shooting. We're not going to talk, theory or stages. What we want to do is we just want to say thank you to everybody who listens and everybody who's been on the show. So we're just going to kind of go back and forth. And Steve, why don't you start us off?
Well, most recently, I'd like to thank Chris Barrett for being on the show. He just accomplished another feat this past weekend, Jeff, so we may have to get him back on early in 2020.
Yeah, he set another record in rimfire rifle iron sights and broke 60 again. So I didn't see him shoot that gun, but I saw him at that match. It was at the Florida State Steel match, and that was pretty impressive. So, well, you know who I'd like to thank? I'd like to thank Mike Foley. He's been, I think, a 5-time repeat member of the Steel Target Paint podcast family and always brings great information, and we get a lot of listeners when Mike's on, so I want to thank him.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank Zach Jones, who heads up all of Steel Challenge. He's been on, and then Jake Martins as well. He's been on a couple times this year as the public relations person for USPSA and Steel Challenge. Appreciate their insight and their support of the sport.
Well, hey, you know what? Let's talk about another repeat guest, and that was Heather Martin talking about Rimfire Challenge. And so up there in, isn't it Minnesota? Am I right?
I don't know. It looks cold every time her husband Eric posts pictures of their workshop they've been working on for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's like it's July and there's snow on the ground. I don't know what's going on there. So
it's wrong. It's just wrong. And then we had Christian Saylor, the 19, 20-year-old phenom, that he won every single area match this year and won high overall in the USPSA Nationals, which I don't know if that's the first time that's ever done. If not, it's one of the top 2 times that's ever been done. And he was on our podcast when I think he won his first or second area match. So we talked to him early on in his greatness of 2019.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the person that's come closest to that accomplishment was another guest of ours, Max Michel. He had won all area matches, but I'm not sure if he won the Nationals that year. But Max was another great and gracious participant of the podcast and shared a lot of good information.
Yeah, we were fortunate to have so many great shooters on, such as JJ, and then we had BJ Norris on. They're both strong USPSA competitors, and BJ Norris is definitely one of the best centerfire shooters, handgun shooters in Steel Challenge history.
Well, we can't forget the godfather of rimfire race guns, Kurt Grimes. He was on. And,
Kurt Grimes.
The Kurt Grimes, yes. And I saw Kurt. He came down for the Florida State Championships, and we had a blast. And it was good seeing him and Maria, and she's becoming quite the shooter if you've been following rimfire race guns. So thanks for being on the show, Kurt.
I think Kurt keeps turning around because he's hearing these footsteps behind him, and it's his wife. She's coming for him, that's for sure.
Well, we had a lot of fun. You got another one. Go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we talked, I think it was early on this past year when we talked with Cole Bush. He's a multi-world champion. He came in second place at the World Rimfire match, but he's got, I don't know, I think his dad Rick was talking about putting an addition onto his house for all the cups, the golden cups that he's won in the last couple of years. So it's always great to have some of these young and up-and-coming guns to share some perspective, and these guys are having fun at the range, which is the most important part.
Absolutely. And we had Billy Striplin on from Striplin Custom Guns talking about a lot of the things that he's doing and the awesome guns and parts that he's building for the industry, and we really appreciated his participation.
Jeff, I've got a secret. My secret is that was probably my favorite podcast that we did, because when Billy got to the end of the podcast, he's like, when are we going to start talking about fishing? He says, I thought we were going to talk about fishing this whole time. I don't know. He's a great guy. He's a little shop, but he contributes so much to the sport. And speaking of contributing to the sport, we had Brian with Tandem Cross on this year, so appreciate their support. They're growing leaps and bounds, which is great to see as well.
Absolutely. And another Brian, who's another great supporter of the sport, Brian Conley from Hunters HD Gold. That was a great interview, and if you're ever at a match, you've got a very good chance of seeing Brian because he goes all over the place.
Absolutely. And thank you to Larry Joe Steele Jr. with Steel Target Paint for putting together the best paint for steel targets on the face of the earth, Jeff. And Larry's been supportive of the podcast from day one. We had him on as our first guest, and it's about that time we need to get him back on early in 2020 to see what's going on out at Steel Target Paint.
Absolutely. You know, this wouldn't happen if it weren't for Larry, and so we really appreciate his support every time. You know, there's somebody else that we talked to, and she's not very well known, but she is a world champion, Olympic champion, and that was Jamie Korkish.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie is one of the nicest people you'll find in the shooting sports for sure.
And see, I'm a little lucky, people, because Steve's actually in his car right now driving, so he can't see. So he's doing this all from memory. I'm actually looking at the podcast page, and so I can call out a couple ones that he doesn't see. So we also want to thank Ron Oliver. We had a great episode with him. We talked for almost 2 hours just about shooting and shooting with kids, and we appreciated that.
And, you know, it was really cool talking with our most recent guest, Bill Duda, with Go Fast Don't Suck and Alpha Gorilla Sports. Their page is, every day I look at it, and, you know, he said they post 2 a day, and he's correct. And, you know, sometimes you kind of wince at a couple, and other times I spit out my water on my computer screen. So Bill's a good guy, and he's doing a lot for the sport, so we appreciate that for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm looking at the counts, and one of our more listened to episodes was when he had Alex Gorbanov on with the AMG Lab Timer. That connected with the practice score pads really provides not only a great scoring experience, but a lot of data to go back and analyze after the fact.
Yeah, Alex is a great guy, and he's pushing the bounds, and hopefully he's creating more competition in the market that will help everybody step up their game. And we were just at the Florida State Steel Challenge match, and it was great because we had AMG timers on all the stages, which was fantastic.
Absolutely. Oh, and we can't forget Ryan Flowers. We talked to Ryan. I think he's an 11-way GM in Steel Challenge, so we can't forget him. I think he's finally going to try to get a revolver shot this year.
Yeah, he's got – I've seen some posts that he's put out there on picking up some revolvers, and he says he wants to become a grandmaster in all 13, so – good luck to you, Ryan.
Absolutely. And you know what? Let's not forget, Steve. I shoot them. You shoot them. You got them on the podcast. Tell them who it is.
I have absolutely no idea who you're talking about.
Oh, come on. You shoot their rifles, Steve. Come on. You're playing dumb. Don't play dumb. No, I'm talking about JP, baby.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm sorry. I'm driving down the road, and I'm thinking about all sorts of things. Yeah, JP Rifles. We had Dustin on the podcast, and oh yeah, there's some, and James Leffler, great guys, and they've got I can't tell you about what I'm working on with them right now, Jeff. You'll have to wait.
Well, you know, you made me wait last time, and it turned out to be the lightweight barrel and the short stroke bolt, and so I actually have one of those now. So I can't wait to see what more money I get to spend on what you're working up with them.
All right, when the recording stops, I'll tell you. Maybe.
See, it's good to know people, everybody. It's good to know people.
That's right.
Well, I think we covered just about everybody who's been on the podcast. I hope if we forgot you, we apologize, but we do appreciate your support, and we really appreciate everybody who listens to the podcast. Steve and I do this for fun. It is here December 9th. We're going to take the rest of the month off and enjoy the holidays with family and friends, but we're going to be hitting this hard again, first of the year in 2020. And hope you're providing you content that you like listening to, and realize we just have fun doing it, and we hope you have fun listening to it.
Yeah, and again, I second what Jeff just said. I really, really appreciate the listeners out there. You know, when I think we just finished up the major match season, or at least I did. shot 11 major matches across the country, probably 6 or 7 different states. And it does bring me some level of gratification every time that I have somebody walk up to me and comments about something that we talked on the podcast. It really makes it worthwhile to spend a couple hours each week on the phone with you, Jeff, talking through what's going on in the shooting sports and answering people's questions and just being able to make a difference. Really appreciate that. So thank you so much to everybody that listens. Please share with your friends. If you like what we're doing, we really appreciate your support.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, have a safe holiday season, and we'll be back in 2020. Bye-bye.